Good evening. Happy Friday. The weekend's here. Welcome to another edition of Rebel Watch. I'm Carson Waire. With me, Tyler Komis, NewsWatch sports reporter, and Aidan Gallardo of the Daily Mississippian, the sports editor over there doing his thing. Going to get into some discussions today about Ole Miss sports. Going to go beyond that to the NBA. It's going to be a great time. Thank you for making us a part of your weekend. Going to start things off talking about our defending national champion baseball team. 4-0 start, a hot start, putting a lot of runs up on the board, guys. Definitely something that, we saw last year, and it looks like it's continuing right into this year. So, Tyler, just your take so far on what's been going on with the offense for the team. A whole lot of runs, right?
So far, I think 45 runs in 4 games, something that hasn't been seen in a long time. But a big reason to that offensive firepower is junior outfielder Kemp Alderman. He's been outstanding to start the year. He has at least, I have here, four balls batted with at least an exit velocity of 110 miles per hour in just one game in Sunday's matchup against Delaware. I mean, that's smashing the ball.
Definitely. And Aidan, a whole lot of guys in this lineup that can do some different things, play different positions. So just a little bit about, what's going on with Coach Bianco, because it's a good problem to have, but it's almost a problem when you've got multiple guys that can play multiple positions. It makes things a little complicated. So talk a little bit about, what's going on with him when he's filling out that lineup card.
Yeah, it definitely makes things complicated, but I actually think it's a good problem to have because that means you have some much more needed depth in the lineup. So you got guys like Calvin Harris who could play catcher. He could go in the outfield. And then when Calvin Harris needs a day off or a rest day, you bring in Kemp Alderman, who could also play catcher. That's his secondary position besides playing in the outfield. And then TJ McCants, he could play in the outfield. He could play some shortstop. I think he played shortstop during his freshman year. So they got a lot of, switching around within the lineup. Bianco, I think I could trust him to put the best guys out on the field to give the Rebels the best chance to win. But then you look at the DH spot, and so far this year they've been rotating guys. Reagan Burford's been playing DH. I think Will Furness, Tywin Malone, Tuesday, he hit like a bomb to center field, which is really fun to watch. So, I think it's a good problem to have, and we'll see what Bianco does moving forward.
Definitely. And as you mentioned, McCann's a very interesting story. Came up as a shortstop, came into Ole Miss as a shortstop. Obviously, Gonzalez took over the spot, but, Gonzalez, a projected top 5 pick in this year's MLB draft. If McCann decides to stick around, he might be the Rebel shortstop next year. We are not sure. Let's talk about new faces. Definitely some new faces on this team, and so far they've been making some noise with the bats. Aidan, what's been going on with these new transfers that we've got?
Yeah, so, they've started the year off, just booming straight. They didn't need any time to take the rust away. So you got guys like Ethan Groff, a transfer from Tulane. He's a center fielder. We've seen him lead off a couple times this year. He's really good at getting on base. He could steal some bags for you. He's got a really consistent bat, and he's definitely a good player to have in the top of the lineup. But then you look at guys like third baseman Ethan Leje. Looks like he's secured that third base spot. He's got a great bat. He's got some good fielding. And then you look at first baseman Anthony Calarco. He could swing the bat a little bit. So, the Rebels have some pretty good new faces.
Definitely. And some unfortunate news. Obviously, we learned that Hunter Elliott's not going to throw this weekend against Maryland. Tyler, what's going on with that? A little injury report so far.
So, based off what Mike Bianco said in his latest press conferences, as Carson just said, ace pitcher Hunter Elliott won't be throwing this weekend at all. And the official listed injury is forearm tightness. And he has undergone MRIs, which have been sent to multiple orthopedics. There has been a lot of speculation that his season might be over, but again, that's just speculation. According to Mike Bianco, it's that hasn't been declared yet. But junior pitcher Jack Daugherty will throw in his place this Friday to begin their series against Maryland.
Yep, so as we said, Daugherty the new Friday guy for now. Another guy that it really hurts to lose, Aidan, is Josh Mallett. The guy in the bullpen last year that was really coming in and shutting the door when we needed it the most. Talk a little about, just the impact, how much of a bummer it is losing him for the year.
It definitely is a bummer, but it's all about that next man up mentality for the Rebels. I think they got some great depth in the bullpen, and we'll see how the season unfolds.
Definitely. And that wraps up this segment of Rebel Watch. Coming back after the commercial break, we're going to talk about the women's basketball team. A very exciting game. Fell just short against South Carolina, but taking number 1 to overtime, not too bad, right, guys? Don't go anywhere. Rebel Watch.
When the mornings are hot, the afternoons are hotter, and football is on its way back. Now games is won by the battles fought in August. Everyone that's not revered as an Ole Miss legend has been in your shoes before, trying to survive at Mississippi Heat, competing for a spot, and knowing the sacrifice that it takes to make it in this league. You go into this money collection of men from 100 different places, and if you work, you emerge from it as one team with one goal and one heartbeat. The SEC awaits you. And if they don't know who you are now, they will soon.
Where are we gonna go?
Someplace warm. A place where the beer flows like wine. Where beautiful women instinctively flock like the salmon of Capistrano. I'm talking about a little place called
Oxford, Mississippi.
To see it is to believe it. You hear about it, but you just have to see the party.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Grove. The sound and fury are here. Let's go. Did he got a toe down?
Pageantry, the pride, the pomp is unmatched and unrivaled.
This stadium has come unhinged.
This is what college football is all about.
Oh, as he gets walloped.
No coach is having more fun than ownership.
This is the place to be in college football right now.
And welcome back to Rebel Watch. I'm Carson Waire. With me, Tyler Komis, Aidan Gallardo, in here hanging out on this Friday. Thank you for making us a part of your weekend. The women's basketball team, very exciting season so far. We're kind of getting into the end of things, towards tournament. Tournament talk's really heating up. Some very important conference games being played, right around this time of year. The SEC schedule and standings sort of staking itself out. We're seeing who's legit, who's not, all that sort of thing. Hey, speaking of legit, I don't think there's any doubt that the Rebs are legit after the other day's game against South Carolina. Took them to the brink, eventually lost in overtime. But, Aidan, just talk a little about that game. We played outstanding.
Yeah, they really put up a great fight against the number 1 team in the country. I think we had a record attendance at the Pavilion. But Ole Miss, they played great defense in the first half. They forced 6 turnovers and held Elia Boston to 3 points. But they were just out-rebounded, 49-36, and both teams just didn't shoot well. 37% from South Carolina and 36% from Ole Miss. Zaya Cook led South Carolina with 24 points, and Angel Baker led Ole Miss with 17 points. But Ole Miss had a chance to win it at the end of regulation, but Marquisha Davis fell out of bounds, which led to overtime and the Ole Miss loss.
You kind of mentioned it right there, the shooting percentages. Kind of a positive spin. I thought their defense looked good, and you guys can correct me, forcing as many as 15 turnovers. You usually win games when you force that many on defense, and held Gamecocks to 37% shooting. That's something not, that pertains to that program that as dominant as they've been all season, not losing a game. I think 27-0 actually. But something I thought, and we'll get into it later with the men's as well, that I thought they could have done better in the game was free throw shooting. They shot 52% from the line and made 8 of 17 free throws. Some fans were complaining that maybe Ole Miss should have got more free throws than they did because Missouri got up to over 20 free throws. So looking back at it, I think that's a big reason why Ole Miss ultimately came up short at the very end there.
Definitely. But, still some momentum can come from that game. I mean, you take a great team like that all the way to the brink, all the way to overtime, and that can sort of get you some momentum going. And, that's something that you're going to need right about now. March is just around the corner, and the NCAA tournament getting things ramped up. So, Tyler, just talk a little about, some momentum that, I know it's a loss, but some positives you can take from the game, especially when it's a grinded out game like that, showing that you can hold a great offensive team like that to, a low shooting percentage, make them turn the ball over. Talk a little about that, just our momentum right now going into the tournament.
I think that's a perfect topic for right now, because going into South Carolina, the Ole Miss women's ladies team had momentum coming from the LSU game, who they took right to the brink, the number 5 team in the country. So even though the losses, and a lot of people don't like moral victories, especially Lane Kiffin, but a lot of the moral victories can really push you forward. And they finished their season up at home Missouri, and they have Bama the following game. So those are 2 games they can use going into the SEC tournament. They'll be matched up with right in the middle of the pack team, because they're right now, as it stands, they're 5th in the SEC. So you win a few, you win your last 2 of the regular season, and maybe win a few, and maybe the whole thing in the SEC tournament. Who knows? We know they can compete with the elite in the conference. So going into March Madness, it should be promising.
Definitely. And Aidan, as Tyler just mentioned, talking about, the team knows now, hey, we can hang with these top-ranked teams. Just, what does that do for a team when you've got that sort of mental edge that, hey, we might not have the ranking or the record of these teams, but talent-wise and discipline-wise, we're right there with them.
I mean, yeah, I think Coach Yo knows that. I think her team knows that. If you take away their record, if you take away everyone's rank, you would think Ole Miss would be a top 10 team in the country, because they've just, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like every game's a tight battle. I feel like they rarely get blown out. And if it's a blowout, it's like 9 points, 8 points. But they could definitely hang their hat, or they could definitely hang around with the best teams in the country. And who knows? I mean, we saw it with baseball last year. You never know. With sports, they can make a deep run.
Definitely. You never know what can happen in the postseason with the Ole Miss Rebels. And Tyler, some senior leadership on this team. We got 4 seniors. Just a little bit about them and, what they've meant to the team this year, the framework of that team.
Yes, speaking of the end of the season, we all here would like to recognize all the seniors being honored against Missouri, including Baker Moore, guard Mariah Taylor, and guard Angel Baker. They had all incredible Rebel careers that won't be forgotten, and they'll always be remembered as part of the rebuild of this Ole Miss women's basketball program that should continue to take steps in the right direction like they have, especially the last 2 seasons. So, hats off to those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to them for all their hard work. And Coach Yo definitely got something special cooking here in Oxford. Every year they seem to take a little bit of a step forward. And, speaking of steps forward, the men's basketball team hopefully looking to take a step forward next year. I mean, the only way to go from here is up. We'll get to that on the next segment of Rebel Watch when we come back from a short break.
It's about where you're going. So where are you going?
I'm going to be the first in my family to graduate.
I'm going to make a difference.
Just like my granddad.
I'm going to make the bestseller list.
And I'm going to help him get there.
I'm going to win a championship.
Again! I'm going to lock the vault! Hotty toddy!
I'm going to take the next step. I'm going to bring them to their feet.
I'm going to Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. Build your legacy.
Ole Miss 18th NCAA tournament appearance.
This is fun, folks, as Baker's peeling it. A little heat check. Snow Collins for 3. Bring it up.
Said, I love Madison Sky.
Ole Miss Rebels are having a lot of fun, and you can see why.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at SheCanSTEM.com.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why did the girl ask the mushroom to dance? Because he was a fun guy. What do you call a pig that knows karate? Pork chop. So how does a tissue dance? Put a little boogie on it.
My passion is journalism. Here at the University of Mississippi, we produce a nightly half-hour newscast, broadcasting regionally on cable and globally on the World Wide Web. It's the kind of experience that is preparing me to walk into any news station in the country with the skills and abilities I need to succeed. So it's not just preparing me for the real world, it is the real world.
And we welcome all of you back to Rebel Watch. I'm Carson Waire, with me, Tyler Komis and Aidan Gallardo in here hanging out on this Friday. We're going to keep things on the court here, talk about the men's basketball team. You know, only 2 wins in conference, so pretty disappointing season so far. There's been, you know, some not so great things that have happened around the team and some guys that we really expected to show up that have, you know, just had a little bit of a tough go of things so far this year. But, you know, they played a pretty solid game against an Auburn team that is, you know, not bad at all. So, Tyler, just break down what happened in that game, some things that might have went a little bit wrong. But, you know, overall, played a pretty solid game. One of our better games of the year.
Absolutely. It was their second outing against Auburn. Ultimately, they couldn't get the job done. But it's, with all the turmoil around the program, it's something that, you know, is admirable, I think, because I mean, these guys are getting slammed week in and week out, and they still week in and week out give their best effort, and you know, gave Auburn a run for their money. They were up 4 with just over 6 minutes to go in that game, very winnable, and just kind of like the women. I don't want to compare them because they've had 2 very different seasons, but in their past 2 games, it's been very similar. The women have dropped 2 close ones and 1 in overtime. Ole Miss has dropped 2 really close ones, 1 in overtime at home. But against Auburn, I mean, the shooting was there. Matthew Morrell and Miles Burns led Ole Miss with 37 of the Rebels' 74 points and a 74-78 defeat. James White also, by the way, sophomore guard, he finally had his coming out game with 13 points and 2 big threes in the second half. Ultimately, it wasn't enough. Ole Miss also won the rebounding battle at plus 10 and like I said, held a 4-point lead with just over 6 minutes to go. But late game free throw shooting, which has been a constant problem this year, common theme, just like the women's team the other day, kind of cost them late game turnovers as well. So
definitely, yeah, some things that'll sink you: free throw shooting, all those basic things that you work on, you know, at the very beginning of the season, try to establish. But you know, NIT. You know, probably not even in the discussion. So, you know, maybe let's take a look, you know, at some positive things to look at next year, some commits, possible, you know, guys that are sticking around that are going to make an impact next year. Aidan, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so some commits to be excited about for next year are Rashad Marshall, Josh Hubbard, who actually just recently broke the Mississippi high school all-time scoring record. So he'll definitely add some life to the offense, much needed life to the offense. There's Jordan Burks and Jacob Gatto. So, I mean, Ole Miss has some pretty good commits lined up for next season. Some guys hanging around are Amari Abram and Deshaun Ruffin. So, I mean, there's still plenty to be excited about regardless of the end of this year.
Yeah, definitely. We got guys that can score, right? You know, you got Abram, who, you know, as a freshman is really, you know, I'm not going to say lit it up, but he's definitely provided a charge when we need it, you know, and the confidence to just come off a screen as a freshman and just shoot the 3. And, you know, some things that you don't see that with a lot of freshmen. Sometimes a little timid in the game, but Tyler, let's talk about Abram, you know, not timid at all, not scared.
Abram, no. Him and TJ Caldwell are getting really good experience. So if Ole Miss can keep this core together, I mean, right now it sucks, but hey, who knows? In 2 years, those guys are juniors. They have all the SEC experience. And a key returner I don't want overlooked is junior forward Jamin Brakefield, who's transferred from Duke 2 seasons ago. He's had a really unbelievable comeback season, averaging 10 points per game on over 50% shooting. The only remark I would say about him is he needs to start shooting more in the second half. He has great first halves, and like the team, they usually do compete in the first half and sometimes have a lead over teams they're not supposed to, and he's a big reason why. So I'm excited for him, for his return.
Definitely, yeah. Brakefield, a guy that can get it done on the offensive end. He can shoot the three a little bit and get it done inside. Also, one of the leading rebounders on the team, gets in there and helps out on the glass. So definitely some bright spots. I mean, a lot to sort of scoff at when you look at this season, but come next year, we might be looking at things a little bit differently with some of these new faces, especially, some of these local kids from Mississippi that are, going to turn some heads hopefully in the SEC next year and in years to come. We're going to keep things on the court, pretty basketball-centered discussion today. Going to talk some NBA, the All-Star break right now, obviously, but, things are going to heat up. We're going to have our picks, awards picks, who's going to win the finals, all that fun stuff coming up on Rebel Watch next after this break.
Takes dedication, spirit, and a greater vision. That vision starts here at the University of Mississippi. What will you be remembered by? Your character, your contributions, your friendship. Your legacy will define who we are now and who we are becoming for our state, our students, and our future. Ole Miss, build your legacy.
The dynamic freshman is starting to make his impact.
Dagger with the shot clock down to 1. That 3-ball drops for Jamin Brakefield.
Fagan from the corner with a triple. Burrell for 3, and that's a big response. 3-ball, yes. Miss shooting lights out at the pavilion.
And give him one more.
Wow. Alley. Oh, you can't teach that. Well, that should give Ole Miss a boost.
These are more than just the sounds of a safe place to go after school. These are the sounds of interest being ignited and of mentors making an impact. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we don't do just one thing. We do whatever it takes to meet the needs of every kid who comes through those doors. Because whatever it takes is what it takes to build great futures. Great futures start here.
We are rebels. For more than 160 years, we've been accomplishing the impossible, from conducting the world's first lung transplant to helping prove Einstein was right. From preserving the past to saving the future. We are Mississippi's flagship university, a place where passion and learning unite, where friends become family, where small-town charm meets world-class innovation. We are the University of Mississippi. We are Ole Miss.
Welcome back to Rebel Watch, wrapping up this week's edition. I'm Carson Waire, with me, Tyler Komis and Aidan Gallardo. Going to talk some NBA, the All-Star break going on right now, but, the season is really, it's been a great one so far, and, some pretty exciting things, some teams that are, shocking the world a little bit, and it's only halfway done. We still got a whole other half of NBA action left. So, Aidan, we'll start with you. Just how about a team that's maybe turned some heads this year that early in the season, not many people had them penciled in to be in the playoff race, but right now they are right in it?
Well, for me, I think I picked the Cleveland Cavaliers just because, bringing in Donovan Mitchell, a superstar, a proven superstar in the league. Last month he had a 71-point game against the Bulls, which was absolutely crazy to watch. they've got great defense, great offense. You look at the front court, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. I mean, these guys, you can't score in the paint against them. Like, they're just shot blockers. They can rebound. And then you look at the perimeter, you got Darius Garland, who could absolutely knock down the three ball. So I think the Cavaliers could definitely clinch home court advantage in the playoffs. I think they can make a pretty deep run. So, I mean, a pretty big improvement from last year for sure.
Definitely. And Tyler, you?
I think my biggest surprise would probably be out west with Sacramento. I mean, Cleveland's also a 3 seed in the East right now, but 3 seed in the West, I can't say I had them even coming close to that. And I think it's got to be that light the beam thing they do after every home game, one of the players, and they have this defensive player of the game chain. I don't know what that new regime is doing over there, but clearly they have the players motivated. So I thought they'd be a play-in team at best, and here you go. They might be a surefire playoff lock. So
yeah, definitely been exciting, and there are fans too. I mean, they've just been so loud. One of the louder crowds in the NBA this year, guys.
I mean, they definitely have the best. I think they have the best fan base in the league for sure. I think they really deserve just to see their team in the playoffs. I mean, it's been, I don't even know how many years since they've even seen the playoffs, but I mean, you just got to feel good for the Kings.
Yeah, definitely a feel-good story. So, you know, sort of on the other end of things, guys, any teams that are sticking out so far as kind of a, you know, what's going on over there type of thing?
I have to say the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, you have LeBron James. I mean, not only are you the Los Angeles Lakers and face of the NBA, you have the face of all, the NBA Players Association, LeBron James, and he's supposed to be in title contention no matter what his team looks like every season. They've already missed the playoffs last year, and it's hard to top the disappointment they had last year for their fans. I'm no Lakers fan, but I mean, back-to-back years with this team, and they feel like they made some moves at the trade deadline, getting rid of Russell Westbrook. They can't scapegoat that anymore. And now they bring in D'Angelo Russell, who's already been in LA before, but not with LeBron. So we'll see if they can turn their fortunes around. But right now, I would have to mark them down as my biggest disappointment.
Tyler, do you think D'Angelo Russell will maybe kind of lift the Lakers into a potential playoff spot, or do you think they're going to be on the outside?
I think at the end of the day, they'll get in the play-in no matter what. I don't know if D'Angelo Russell's going to be enough. I don't know if he's that good of a defender, but I know he'll be passing the ball a lot, and he doesn't need the ball in his hands a lot to be a successful scorer like the other point guard they had. But it's hard to bet against a LeBron James-led team. I don't believe they made the play-in last year. I think they'll at least do that, but still, that's not where they should be in their book either. So
yeah, definitely some interesting things. For me, a team that's turned some heads, the New York Knicks, a pretty successful campaign so far. People say in the offseason, oh, they overpay for Jalen Brunson. Maybe right now it is not looking like it. Certainly not looking like a guy that can go for 40 on any given night out there. So pretty surprising team. We'll see how things shake out in the playoffs. We'll see what they're really made of. But for me, it's the New York Knicks so far. So we're going to move on, talk about some individuals. Rookies making noise in the league for sure this year. Guys, how about some Rookie of the Year predictions?
Yeah, so I got Paolo Banchero from the Magic. I mean, as a rookie, he already looks like their best player. I think he's going to be a superstar in the future. I think he's putting up like 20 points per game, 10 rebounds. I mean, he's just a do-it-all guy for the Magic. He's I think he's a one-of-a-kind player. I mean, he could play defense. He could rebound the ball. I mean, he's just a really good player, and I think he's going to win the Rookie of the Year.
Boring enough, I'm going to have to agree with you. I think, the scoring's remarkable, the rebound's remarkable, but I feel like that pick alone has, lifted that franchise. I don't know if they've ever received as much attention or – like we've said about the Kings, their fans have been through it, so have Magic fans, and now they're finally kind of here and have something promising to look forward to in the future, something you couldn't always say with that team. So
yeah, definitely. The Magic fans always supporting. A little bit of a slightly exciting period back. The Aaron Aflalo to despise Harris teams, but this new team loaded with young talent, and like as you said, got one of the best young players in the NBA, if not the best young player right now in Banchero. So pretty interesting situation going on there in Orlando. Something to keep your eye on. And guys, we'll wrap up the show with how about some finals predictions? I know we're only halfway through, but how about a matchup and who you think wins?
For me, I think I got the Celtics versus Suns in the finals. Celtics because I think they look like the most complete team in the NBA. They have really good scorers in Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and those guys could defend too. They could defend really well. They got guys like Marcus Smart. I mean, Tatum could defend too. Jaylen Brown could defend too. And then you look at the Suns. They bring in KD to add to Booker, to add to Chris Paul. They did give up like Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, but I think KD was definitely worth it for them. And I don't know. I got the Celtics. I got the Celtics in 7 games.
Celtics pulling it out?
Seven games that series. But yeah.
Well, I got the same matchup, but I have a little bit of a different outcome. I think that series would go 7 games as well. But my big if is only if they're healthy. I mean, every NBA team's like that. You're never going to get out of injuries, but I think, like you said, the Kevin Durant trade, it's championship or bust for the next 2 years at least. And I just think they get it done. And both teams are battle tested. You had the Celtics in the finals last year; they lost, and then the year before that, the Suns lost to the Bucks. So it would be a really good matchup. There wouldn't be any lack of experience by any stretch. So
yeah, definitely. The Suns just that kind of team now. They got KD. Just matching up, just walking on the court. It almost seems that they're impossible to guard, doesn't it? It almost seems like you got. It doesn't matter how good of a defensive team you are. It's like one of these guys is going to hurt us. Isn't that right?
Yeah. It's like they have a big four. I mean, Chris Paul, Aiton, Durant, and Booker. That's hard to stop offensively.
Got firepower all over the floor. Personally, I've got the Suns versus the Bucks. I've got the Suns coming out in the end in like 5 or 6 games. I think it's going to be kind of a quick one. Well, thank you so much for making us a part of your weekend. Tune in to Rebel Watch. We're here every Friday at 5. And we really appreciate all of the support. I'm Carson Waire, Tyler Komis, Aidan Gallardo. Thank you very much. Go Rebels. Baseball this weekend, women's basketball, all that good stuff. And have a great weekend. Thank you.